So we'll need some extension on our Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE that we'll be using for our Django project. Now, if we are making use of PyCharm, we would not be needing to download this extension because Visual Studio Code is not dedicated Python IDE. So we need to get those extensions. So the first one is we need to install Python. I'll just check if it's already here. If the extension is here already. Okay, so the first extension, as you can see here, is already installed. So we have it there, which is by Microsoft. So if you don't have it, please just try and install it as quick as possible. So go to extensions on your sidebar on the Visual Studio Code. Type in Python. Then the very first one, which is the Microsoft package, then just install it. Okay, so for us to start our Python project, which is where I'll be starting from, I want to teach us the basics of Python a little. So we're going to take it a little Python, a little Django, so as to understand the scripting aspect of the Django. I'm sorry, sir. How many hours do I have? So, judging by my time, I would probably use 1 hour 30 minutes to run through a little bit of Python before we move to Django. So for us to start, we need to create a virtual environment. So you must, before you we create a virtual environment, you must have your Python already installed on your system. I have you installed Python? So if you have Python installed on your system, then we can move on from there. So we'll open our terminal and we'll go to new terminal. So when we are already in our terminal, we can check if our Python is already installed. If it is universal in our system, we can locate it anywhere. So we just run the command python dash dash version. So that would allow us to know if it has been added to the environmental variables. And as you can see here, once it brings the version, the Python version, it shows that it has been added to the environmental variable. So I'm just going to clear this. Now, for us to create our virtual environment, which is where most of our packages will actually be saving, we need to run a command, which is python dash m env venv. So the first command, this venv, the first venv is to let it know that I want to create a virtual environment. Then the second venv is the name of that folder itself, which we are naming venv as well. It could actually be named anything. Most some people name it env, which is environment, but venv is also just for virtual environment. So once we do that, we are going to click on enter and it will actually create the virtual environment. So we'll wait for it to actually finish loading up. So all our installation, when we are going to start doing our pip install, Django, pip install, all the packages we'll be needing to actually be saving right inside this virtual environment. So we'll not be using the global virtual environment. We will not have some errors later on when we want to create new projects. Okay, so for me, my virtual environment has already been created, has just been created. Thank you. Now, the reason why we are actually creating a new virtual environment is to create a copy of the Python for this particular project that we are working with. Now, if we don't do that, we'll be working with global Python package that we already have on our system. So, and every package we now install would actually be affecting that. Will be it's more like we are having a project and there are certain requirements needed by that project, but it's not every project that needs the same requirement. For some, let's say you are doing a project that involves you using Excel spreadsheet, store pandas, numpy, and now you are doing a project that does not involve that. You don't need pandas, you don't need numpy, right? So you would not want it to be a general requirement that for every project that is the same thing that is every of your project has the same what do I call it? Should I call it database or something like that. So for each project you are creating a copy of your own Python environment that it makes use of. So every time you want to export it, it only gets the needed or necessary requirements to for that project. Every time you want to. That's the main reason why we are doing this. Because every package you install actually needs some little changes and if the requirements don't match, they will actually start. That is why we are creating actual needed, it's necessary for us to understand. I had a friend that made that mistake. He was working with a Python project. He didn't get a virtual environment. He was just installing all the packages. Then he got to a point, he now transferred what's it called? The Python project to another system. The Python on the new system is a lower version to the Python he was using. Then everything just, you have to restart the whole project again. Then I have to create a Python virtual environment first. That is why we are going through this. So another extension that you can actually add is Prettier. Now Prettier helps with um, like a lot of code completion, code formatting. Yes, so Prettier it helps with a lot of code formatting for different languages. Languages. So it's actually very good as well. So it helps to give each like a certain color, not just everything having the same color. So it's actually a useful extension as well. There are different extensions that we can work with. That is okay for now. Before we so I was saying you can use Flutter and that, but to actually have like a more robust system where you have what would I call it? You know, we have different three-tier architecture, two-tier architecture, and so on. So when we are working like that, and you are now thinking of having to handle your backend, and you want something more robust, more scalable, in the sense that it handles more information, you can easily update. So we make use of Django because I'm making use of Django because there are so many things you can make use of Node.js and other stuff. So, but Django offers a lot in security features as well. So it's not as if you cannot use that, but you can use that as well. It's not that common because it's not created for it. Most programming languages they have a specific part that they are tailored towards. For instance, when you are building Android applications, you make use of Java. There's no matter you write it in any language, anything, the language that you're writing it in would actually still convert it back to Java. So this Flutter that you've written now, if you check your folders and you go to the Android folder, you see something like Java. So it's written, the Android code itself is written in Java. So there's nothing you can, if you write it in any other language, to convert it back to Java. So that is an example of these things. So there are some specific programming languages that are created for specific purposes. You cannot change it. You can use other programming language as alternatives, but you will still have to come back to it. Do you understand now? So if you want to make use of that, probably you have something like a chatting um, application in your mobile app, then you may want to use Firebase. So for something like that, using what's it called, real-time database that is inside of Firebase will actually work faster for automated login features that you don't want to work, you don't want to authenticate yourself, you want it to be automated and very fast. You can make use of Firebase as well. So you won't need Django for all of those. You just need that to process numbers. You just write the code, that code, and it's going to run. You understand? But if you want to handle the login process yourself, then you make use of something like this. So most of my projects, I love to handle the login, the authentication myself because I want to do some things myself. Make use of stuff like this. You understand? That's how I know. Depending on your project, that's what determine. Okay, so we are good to go, right? So the first thing we'll be doing now is we would actually be working Python. So we'll be looking at Python scripts generally. So I think for the next 1 hour now, we'll actually look at Python scripting. So the first thing we'll do is create a file, a Python file that I'll be working with. So here I'll name mine main.py. So every Python file has a .py extension. So that's to show that is a Python file. So moving on, we'll first off be looking at variables. Variables, or okay, let's start with our normal, we are starting a new programming language. So let's print hello world. Now for us to do that, which is the common first programming program that you write in every programming language, we need to just do that. Let's run our Python. So we'll type print, which is a function, make use of the print function. Then inside of it, we'll actually enter a string. And here I'll just say hello. Then I'm just going to run. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to run code. So as you can see here, hello world. So it shows that it is working perfectly well. Okay. Have you all done that? I said it will be a bit fast. So as we can see the syntax here, we can see a little, let me just highlight the syntax. We do not need the semicolon to actually terminate our statement. So as we can see right here, which is what we are doing here, and we are using the print function to actually display some content. So this is the content here, which is in string, the print function, and every function has a parenthesis. So when you see anything with the parenthesis, it is talking about a function. Okay, so the next thing that we will now be looking at, let's just delve into the old stuff straight up. We'll be looking at variables. Let's start with variables. And when we are talking about variable in Python, Python implicitly defines its variable. So we do not need to define state the data type of that variable ourselves. Unlike other languages, for instance, the Dart that you are working with, you realize that there are times that you would have to explicitly define the data type of that language, where you have to write, okay, string name equals something. So in Python, we do not need to do all of that. The value, the data type of our value is what determines the data type of our variable. So, and our variable is a container that we use to store data. So here I will name a variable name and I will say equals to, so we have this here. This puppy right here is our value. This name right here is our variable. And this equal to here is our assignment operator. So we are using this equals to sign to assign this value, which is name, to this variable right here. And from there we can check the type of our variable because our variable has we can have different data types, and here we can print, let's first print that. going to say print name, which is our variable. So we want to print out the value of our variable. And here we can see the value of our variable being printed out here. Now moving on from here, we can also check the data type of our variable. So I'm just going to cut this type. So this is also another function. This type right here is also another function, as you can see the parentheses right in front. Now what the type does is it returns the data type of that particular variable. Now because without printing it, we will not be able to see it. So we need to also print that out. So this code right here will return the data type of our variable, and then we'll be able to see it as well. So as you can see here, it's showing class string, which is showing us that our data type is of the class string. So that is what we have there. Any questions so far? Are we following? Okay, so moving on, we've seen what our variable can actually do. So our variable is used to store values. So the next thing we'll be doing, like I said, I'll be rushing through it. So you guys need to pay rapt attention. So I'll not be going through too much of examples. I'll just make sure that the ones that we need to quickly grab, we'll grab that. So we'll be looking at different variable data types rather. And the data types that we have um, two categories. We have the primitive, thank you. We have the primitive and we have the reference data types. So we have the primitive and reference data types. Reference data types. So the first one we'll be looking at is the primitive. The primitive data. So I'm actually leaving this comment right here. So this is how we leave comments in Python. This is a single line comment right here. This is how we leave comments. So comments are just for documentation, so that once you go over your code again, you can easily understand what you are actually doing. So our primitive data types, we have string, we have integer, we have float, and we have boolean. So those are primitive data types. Now we'll just be giving us quick examples on that. So I'll say let's my name equals and right here this is a string. So this is a string that we have right here. So for our string is any character. Our string is any character, alphabet, numbers, symbols, space itself. Anything as long as they are in quotation, either single or double. Far as they are in quotation, they are strings. Hope we get that. As long as they are in quotation, they are strings. So that is what we have there. Then again, I would want you to take note of this naming convention here. Now, this is how when we have two or more words in that will make up our variable, we actually join them together using underscore. So there are different naming conventions that we use when it comes to programming language. So in Python, when we are naming variable, we use snake annotation. So I'm just giving us all of that so as to for us to catch up. For those of us that are still typing something. So we use snake annotation, which is we join them by underscores. When we are working with functions, we also use that. When we are working with classes, when we are creating classes, we use camel case notation. So those are some of the things I just want us to take note of. So that is that for our string. Now let's move on to integer. So integer, we can have something like age equals 25. Here we are integer. So integer generally are whole numbers. Integers generally are whole numbers. Now let's move to floats. So floats, I'll just say amount, let me see, quantity. Quantity equals 3.75. This right here is a float. So floats are decimal numbers, and numbers with decimals. Then we have booleans. Our booleans are either true or false. Boolean can either be true or false. So that is that. Then let us just print the result. Type. Then I'm going to be separating my print statements with commas. So I'll just print everything all at once. Right. Okay, so this is another way that we can actually print all our results out instead of just printing them one by one, just to save time. So we already have our string, we already have our integer, boolean, float, and boolean. So once we run that, we can see the types. So as you can see here, the first one is class string, second one class integer, third one class float, and the last one is class boolean. So we already have every of the primitive data type represented right here. Okay, so any questions so far? None. I think we can move on. Now, the next thing we would be looking at is we would be looking at data type casting. So we've looked at data type now. Let's see data type casting. Now, this is actually very good in the sense that it involves us changing the data type of one particular variable to another. For instance, we want to change our integer to a string. We want to change our string to an integer. We want to change our string to a float in case of some issues that come. Because we'll soon start collecting inputs. And when we start collecting inputs, our inputs come in as strings. They come in as strings. Now, if you are collecting an input for numbers, it is coming in as string, even though it is numbers. So you need for you to work on it to perform some operations on it, you need to convert it to an integer or a float. Isn't that right? So that is where our data type casting comes in. So I'm just going to show us a little bit. For us to do that, we make use of some functions like the int function. We use the int function to convert to integer, the string function str to convert to string, the float function to convert to float, and we use the bool function to convert to boolean. So I'm just going to be doing some quick work and I'm just going to be printing them out instead of creating variables. So we have int here. So I want to use this int function and I want to convert a number that is in string. Now we need to understand that there are different instances where we can make use of these functions. So if you want to convert, you cannot say you want to convert a character, for instance. You can't say you want to convert this. You can't say you want to convert it to an integer. Is this possible? Because the value here is not a number, right? So if you do this here, it's going to give you an error. You see here, name error. Then this is not defined. So that is something that we would get. Now, for us to actually do this, we need to have an integer. We need to show that what we have right here is an integer. So let's say 56. So 56 here, what should I do? I want to make a code comment. Okay, we understand that we are printing the type. We are converting it, right? So I'm going to just wrap it around type so that we can see the data type that is going to convert it into. Hope this is not too much. Do we understand? Are you sure? Because this is some of the things I'll be doing. I just want, if you don't understand it, like I said, we are working at a very fast pace. So if there's anything you don't understand, feel free to call me back and let me explain or break it down to you. So for this code to work, it runs the inner value. Now this is a string. 56 is a string because it is in what? Quotation. Now this int function here changes it to an integer, right? So we no longer have 56 in quotation, we have 56 as an integer. Now this type here now checks the value of that. Okay, is what is the data type? If is it still a string, is it already an integer? Then afterwards we print it out. Do you now understand? So it starts from the inside, then comes out. Once we run that, as you can see here, now it is of class integer inside. So that's the data type that we are now getting. So after the conversion, we are now sure that it has successfully converted the string to integer. Hope we are following. Okay. So I'm going to do it the other way around now. I'm going to insert a number which is not a string. As you can see, 56 here, no quotation, so it is an integer. Then I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to use the string function to change it to a string, just like this. So using the str function, and I'm going to return the type as well. Now, if I run this here, so as you can see here, it is now of class string. We entered a number, we use the string function to actually convert it to a string. We are getting the data type, which is now string, and we are printing it out, which is how we are getting this result. Okay, so quick one in 3 minutes. Give me an example of convert from float to string, convert from integer to boolean. So quickly do that 3 minutes. Let me see the results that we're going to get. So convert from string to float. Was that what I said? Float to string. Convert from float to string and convert from integer to boolean. Just do that and let me know your results in the next 3 minutes. When we are converting boolean, now there is like a clause to it which I want to show us quickly. So if we are converting a boolean, If we are converting zero, zero is going to give us any other thing aside from zero will give us one. So if I'm converting one, two, three, four, five, and I do that, I'm going to always get true. I'm going to always get. So that is what Boolean is all about. Anything as long as it's not zero, zero is only the one that will return false. If it's any other number, either negative or positive, it's going to return true to you. If you are converting to a Boolean. Hope you understand. Okay, so the next thing that we would be doing very, very quickly is now we've done data type casting, we've looked at the different data types, we've looked at variables. Okay, so the next thing we would be looking at now is string methods. So we'll be looking at string, we'll be looking at string methods, we'll be looking at each of those things. String, string, let's say strings. So we'll be looking at some string methods and how to make use of string. So I'm going to name uh, so we have this here. Now for us to access some methods in string, we need to use the dot notation. Call it dot notation. So here I'm going to say name dot. Now here we can see a list of methods that we can use on that. So we can see a list of methods and I'll be showing us a few. So we can say upper. Now what upper does is it changes the um it returns a new value but with every character in uppercase. Do we understand that? It returns a new value. It does not change the original value. Do we understand? Are we sure? It's more like it makes a copy, then performs that function, then returns. So I have this phone here. I want to turn it to white. Then something will clone this phone. So which means I have to, right? I still have this original one. Now the clone I am making, it now changes it to white, then returns it to me. That is what this does. So there are some ones that they will alter the original copy. There are some methods that will alter the original copy. But this one, it actually makes a copy of the original copy, then returns a new value. So we need to understand that because those are some of interview questions to apply. So here now, if we print this, we can see here is returning a new value which is color connected. Now, what I am saying now is if I actually now print the initial name, I will get the initial value I stated. So which means the initial value is what is intact. It's just returning to us a copy of that. So another thing function that we can use is lower. Once I run that, everything is going to be in lowercase instead of the first one which was uppercase. Okay, this one
No, on the terminal.
on the
Is it
term
because of
you can say it for everyone to understand.
that's right?
Okay, So there are other methods that we can make use of. Now, a trick to this is once you click on dot, now you can see a list of all of this, right? Now, for anyone that you don't know the function, you can easily see this documentation here, right? You see returns a formatted version of S using substitution for blah 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 blah. Here you see join. The string concatenates any number of string. The string whose method is called is inserted between each given string. The result is returned as a new string. And we see this example here. So the upper that we used in the other time said return a copy of the string converted to uppercase. So if you want to use anyone and you don't know the function or what it does, you can easily come here, check the documentation, you see capitalize, return a capitalized version of the string. More specifically, make the first character have uppercase and the rest have lowercase. Okay, so based on capitalize now, capitalize, let's use that. I now want to test. We read the documentation now together, right? So let's read it again because I'm going to give us a test like, to do together. So the documentation says it returns a capitalized version of the string. More specifically, make the first character have uppercase and the rest lowercase. Do we understand? Now, if I run this code, what would this give me? What would be the output? And everything else will be small letter, right? That's not where I'm going. That's not my main objective. I just want to use that to be strong so that we are following. Its name is not defined. Why is name not defined? Let's run that again. Okay. So as you can see here, we have your answer. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. Now tell me what will be our answer? I added space here and I added space here. What will be my answer now? What will be the output? It will remain the same, right? Any objection? It will remain the same. Okay. I will be gladly tell you that you are wrong. See now. Yes, now. Now capital letter. Is it not going to have capital letter? Oh, exactly. Now, I'm not saying anything. Okay, let me change it back. I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to do this. Okay. So your okay. Space out. Okay, now look at this. The answer, right? The K is capitalized, right? It's capitalized. Now I'm doing this. Look at the answer very well. Okay. Now we have this. Oh, wow. Anybody knows why? Why? Because that's we capitalize for that. Capitalize on and make others. What's the first character in this case? Space. The space. It shows that you are paying attention. So that's something you need to understand. When we are talking about strings, like I said, I intentionally mentioned this when I was talking about string. Like I said, even space is also a character. So here it has capitalized the space that we have. Hope you understand. Now, there's another function that we can use. We have this right here. We know that if we have this space before and after, it is making our code to actually have an issue. Is that not so? Because does your name have space before it? If we are to store this in the database, that means it will store with the space. You understand? The space before and after. not just only before. Now, for us to now be sure of what I am saying, let's print the length of our name. So for us to print the, want to know the number of characters in our name, we use a function called len. So as you can see, return the number of items in the container. So I'll say len of name. So here, how many characters are in this? Let's say in my name, naturally, Olawale Davis. How many characters are there? Let's first check that out. Let's not use our brain to calculate it when we have a computer here. So as you can see, we have 15 characters with the space K-O-L-E-W-L. Sorry. I'm confused. Yes, L-E space D-E-N-N-I-S. That's 15. So with the space. Now, if I add space here, one, how many will it be? Hope you understand now. Now, we know that this is already a problem, right? In programming language, it's already a problem for you to solve. Now, how do we solve this problem? There's a function that allows us to solve this problem. And what is that function? It's the strip function. Strip function. I'm already taking too long on these methods, but because they come in handy later on. So, strip function. Now, when we use this strip function, what does it do? It will actually remove every space before the first character and before the last character. It removes every space before the first character and after the last character. There is also another one, another type of it, which is the R strip and the L strip. The R strip removes every strip on the right, removes every space on the right hand side, and the L strip removes every space on the left hand side. So if I run this now, we would actually get this. So it has removed the spaces. Do we understand? Now, another thing, the last method I'll put, let me see, the last example that we bring here is what I'll show us method chaining. How we can combine two, three, four, five methods all together into one. So that is what I'm going to show us. Now, let's go back here. Let's go back. That capitalized function. Yes, because the capitalized function is what we are using here. We are not using it here. Can you use the capitalized function? Exactly. That is where the method chaining now comes in. So this is what is very good in order to clean our data. You are collecting a data from a user. You are not thinking that every user is same. Let's think that some users are otherwise. Some users can come. Okay, let's see what will happen. Your code crash and come and do this. Imagine this entering your database, then you want to print it in your mobile app now. You want to print out the name. Okay, get the name of the user, the login user from the database and print it out. And you are seeing space like this, and you are seeing the name running out of the frame. You know that's already an issue. So there should be a way for you to clean up your data to come in a format that you want. You are collecting data and you are asking people to enter something. There are people that will enter in lower case, people will enter in upper case, there are people that will enter in capitalized form, there are people that will enter in abnormal form, right? There should be a way for you to get a specific format that your input is going to be saving in the database. So that is why I'm showing, that's why I'm taking my time to show us all of this. Now, I already added this lot of space, blah blah blah, blah which is almost like it will never end. So if I print this again, you see that this word would remove all of those spaces. Meanwhile, all of these words here, right here, will add all those spaces. Right. Yes, Python runs line by line. The first line, the second line, third line, fourth line. When it gets to the line where there is error, it will crash and nothing is running again. Do you understand? So it runs line by line. That's why it's called an interpreted language. A compiled language will compile everything. As this code is, it will compile everything. If there's one error, if there's error in line 28, the code will not run. It will just show you error in line 28. Go and fix it. If you don't fix it, it will not run. But an interpreted language will run. It will run the first, second, up to the 27th line. When I get to the 28th line, it's not like, my brother, there is an error in line 28, oh, I cannot go further. So that is the difference between a compiled language and an interpreted language. So let's just have that in mind as well. So let's move on. So as you can see here, you see this, you see this, you see all the
So what if
spaces.
you put the string before
It will still not work because that's what I'm saying. It returns a new value. It's not altering the original value. Do you understand? All of these are returning new values, new values, new values, new values. They are not altering the original value. It is when they alter the original value that okay, everything else you now print would actually now follow the changes. Do you understand my point now? So that is why I made sure I explained that initially that it's just returning a copy, not like it is changing the actual value. So here now, we see when we run this strip, it does this. It has removed all the spaces before and after. Because if you check this now, this is the space after. But here we see there's no space before and after. So one thing that we can now do is we can now chain it. I can now do dot. Let me see. So what this will do is it will first strip it, then it will change it to uppercase. So when we are doing our method chaining, we have to also be very, very logical about it. I should not put upper before strip, or let's say capitalize. Let's use capitalize. Capitalize will be better for us to understand. Now we know that we only want to capitalize the first. We only want to capitalize the first alphabet, right? So we need to strip it first before capitalizing. If we capitalize first before stripping, we are going to be having a logical error. It's going to give us a result, but it's not the result that we desire. So if I run this now, sorry, so as you can see here, we are getting the result that we desire. It removes the spaces first before capitalizing. Now let's switch places. If we are to switch places now, if we are to switch places, run this. Now we can see what's it doing here? It has first capitalized, which is it capitalized the empty space first before now stripping, which is why we have this result, which is not what we desire. So that is why we need to actually be very logical about how we run our Python code. So now the good thing about all of this is we can actually do all of this if we know that we want to do it once instead of now having to do all of this. We can do everything right here. We can add the value right here. For instance, this. So doing this, it would automatically capitalize. Let me. So if I now print, now it will give me the same result. Right? because I'm already doing it from here. So that is what I'm now saving in my variable. Do you understand, Danny? Do you get it? So I'm saving this in my variable now. So anytime I call this variable, this is the value I'll be getting because I've already done the formatting and saved it into it. Do we understand? So that is another thing that we can actually do. So any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, so now let's move to let's see something. Let's look at string slicing. Trying to look at my time. If we can cover up. So we have by 11 we'll stop Python scripting. String slicing. So I'm trying to run us through the major things that we need if possible. Now, for us to do string slicing, we already have our name, we already have our string right here. So when we want to do string slicing, we need our string, which is this thing. We use the bracket notation in this instance, the square bracket, to actually determine how we want to get particular strings. In this case, we call them substrings from our string. So if we separate them using this colon, I will not be getting into the advanced steps because, like I said, we are really rushing. I may not be able to break it down as you want. See, our main focus is Django because we actually have 3 weeks to look at Django, and this is not Django, right? Hope you know this is not Django at all. This is Python, and Python is what Django is built on. If you don't understand Python scripting, you will not be able to understand the whole processing Django. So that is why I want to take us through all of this as quick as possible. So when we get to Django, some things will not be like just doing it for doing sake. In the long run, I don't understand. Okay, so here we have this. Now we already have our string. Our string once again is this. Olawale Dennis. Now I want to print the first 5 characters. Now when we are doing string slicing, one thing I want us to understand is we have a start and a stop. Then we have a step. Start, stop, and step. That's what it contains. Now it's in this format. I'm just going to add the format. So var stands for the variable we are using. We have start, we have stop, and we have step, just like this. So our stop is exclusive. Do we know what it means for something to be exclusive? It means that it is not involved. For instance, we are going from, I'm counting from, I want to get numbers from 0 to 5, but 5 is exclusive, which means I'm not including 5. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you understand? So 5 itself, that number at that stop is not included. Now we make use of something called indexing. Indexing is talking about position. Position where our what's it called is. Positions where our um characters are placed. Now here if you look at this in Python, our indexing starts from 0. It's more like our counting. Our counting starts from 0. In most programming languages, the counting starts from 0. It is only R. Have you heard of R language? It is used for data analytics. R language, that's the only language I've known so far that its counting starts from 1. Every other programming language, their counting starts from 0. So here, the first index, which is the index of the first character, Our first character here is K. So the index of K is going to be 0. Then we keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We already know the number of characters here is 15. So let's go back. Let me print here. So the length of our character is 15 of the string that we have. The length of that string is 15. Now here, our start here, let's say we want to print Kolawole, right? We want to print only Kolawole. Now I'll start my counting. This is starting from 0, the zeroth index. So I'll put this here. So my start is going to be from 0. Now my stop is going to be, I want to stop at, I want to get, when I get E. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which means the index of E is what? 7. But like I said, the last number is exclusive. Which means if I had 7 as my stop, it is not going to print E. So I need to add one more count. So instead of 7, I'm going to be entering 8 here. And as you can see, I can get Kolawole. Do we understand? It's one of the most tricky aspects. I wish I could get. Do we have a marker? So because that's the best way I can actually do that. Without having to write it down, it will actually be understanding. All of this will come in handy depending on the programming language, depending on the type of processing that you want to run. Then, if possible, we would write some programs just to help with our understanding. I hope that time has come. I and you get that only place only 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was what I was explaining. That counting starts from 0. Counting starts from 0. Right? So counting starts from 0. How you decide what happens for you. So we have this, right? Now, what we are talking about index. Indexing, like I said, starts from 0. So this here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So the indexing starts from 0 and stops at 7. But what is the length of this? The length is. Do you understand? Now, if I'm to print this out, this is the index I want to get last. But this has to add one more index because the last value, when I have my start and stop, the last value, this stop is exclusive. So if I want to get from, I want to get Olawale, the last value, the last index of the character, which is 7, I need to add plus 1 and get this. Because if I add 0 to 7. This will give me up to 6 because 7 is exclusive. This is talking about 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you understand? That is what we are saying to give without giving.
That first one. That first one.
Yes, start. This is
Why is that one?
stop.
That one.
This one.
Yes. Say that we will have to
I said yes. Now I'm just explaining that if you run this now, this will give me color wall. If you stop here, if not, it will give me all of this without giving me this. Because this index is exclusive. So for me to get all this value, I need to now add plus one, which is the last index of the character you want to put plus one.
I don't say what.
But it's more than that. The actual thing that we are working with is that not 9, 10. This is what we are working with, right? This is how many characters?
Yes.
It's 15 characters. Now I want to print color wale. Color wale here ends at what? Index what? 7. Start at what? 0. Now I'm going to say my start is 0. My stop is meant to be 7, right? Because that's where my index stop. But it is exclusive. So for me to actually print this, I have to add plus 1, which now make it 8. So what this will do is it will print from 0 to 7, but not print 8. Do you understand? Now, okay, let me give us. If I want to print Dennis, what will be my start and what will be
What is it?
my stop? 8
Nine
to
to
9 to 15. Simple as that. The start is 9. The stop is 14 initially. But because it is exclusive, we have plus 9 to 15. Do you understand? So that is how we do index. Now, when we now want to involve step, that's why I said step is a little bit, but since we've gotten case, I've seen the marker, they can easily do that. Now, from color wallet, what is for us to print color wallet, what would that be? Let's go again. 0 to 8. This start to stop. But now I don't want to print color wallet. I want to print every second character in color wallet.
every set. Then
I want to print OAOP. That's how you use step. That means I'll use step. So I'm saying that it should be ALW because it prints, then take two steps. So it prints, take a step, take a step, print, take a step, take a step, print, take a step, take a step, print. That is how, just to be sure. So that is how step works. Now, step is not limited to one X. Okay, so that's the
what
reason
you
we
want
have
to do? Zero, eight, and O, A.
then where are we starting from?
I started from
Exactly. One. We want to bring from O, A. Instead of us starting from zero, we start from, then we get O. The same thing if you are doing step 3, want to print every third character. So if I'm starting from 1, let's say we're starting from 0, it's going to print K, 1, 2, 3, A, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to get E. Do you understand? So that is string slicing. Okay. I think that's that's the 08. Since step of picking what's it? It is the stop. That's the stop. It's still where we are going. We are just adding a step. We are creating, it's more like, when we say 0 to 8 initially, when we're using start and stop, we're telling ourselves, okay, this is the range I'm going with. Now, a step is now, okay, I don't want to get all of the characters. I want to get specific characters. Every second character, every third character. That is my second. Yes. So here now, if I put one, so one is to print everything, definitely. Because like I explained here, third character, like I explained here, let's go at this. This is 0 to 8. 0 to 8 to print what? Yeah, Daniel. 0 to 8 here. We print color, right? If I had one step, one step is I print key. Take one step and print. One step, print. One step, print. One step, print. Is it not the same? Now, if I do, what I'm now saying is take two steps and print. So it's print key. One, two. One, two. Everything is starting from one, two. Because index. So if I change this to 2, it means I'm starting from index 2, which is what? L. 1, 2. 1, 2. So that is how it works. It's fine, sir. No. It's actually good when you ask questions and you understand. You get my point now. Because if you come across these are different ways that you solve problems when it comes to programming languages. Yeah. Let's see. I think for the most part of it, we've been able to do a whole lot, the most rigorous part. So let's get into the input and output. We are going to collecting inputs now, and we are going to be outputting them. So this will be the last one that I'll be looking at when it comes to Python script. Then we'll move to Django. Okay, so input and output. So for us to collect input in Python, we use the input keyword. Saying to use input function. If you are paying attention. Okay, so we use the input function. So here I'm going to be collecting input for what should we collect input? Email. Okay. So I'm going to say email equals input. Then when we are using the input function, you see here we can add a prompt. If you look at the stuff here, prompt. So the prompt is more like a message to the person that wants to enter the input to let them know, okay, this is the type of thing. No. Yeah. Yes. It will work. It will work like a placeholder. It will work like an email. You understand? It works. So it's just like requesting. So yeah, I'll just say enter name. I'm going to add a colon and a space. I'm adding a space so that we have significant space. Then after that, I'm just going to print that out. I'm going to print out again. And oh, sorry. I mean, once I do that, then
Space is great.
yeah, so that it will not be clubbed together. So here, I'll just
What's
ask now. Every question you feel like is unimportant or is stupid is could be another question that is running in someone else's mind. So the fact that you've gotten the answer to it does not mean that you should not ask because that could actually help someone else. Ask. There's no when it comes to learning, there's no stupid question.
I wanted to say what if you not add the space?
Yes, if you don't add the space, it will be clubbed up together. So it's more like we're just formatting how we're getting our input so that there will be a space between the message and what the person is entering. So that is why we are adding. It's not even allowing me to enter input. It's not allowing me to press it. Yours is opening on terminal, right? Python.
I don't need the I don't need that. I don't.
I think it's the way you
That's
okay, so are you having trouble with them? So we already have our output here. Okay, let's pay attention. Oh. So we already have our output. Take it, take it. Okay, so now recall that we had the string formatting. What's that point? The string methods that we used the other time. Hope you are following. Now let's look at the place where they come in handy. Now we are running our program, and I'm entering this all these spaces. Then before I print whatever I print, then I'm doing this. Once I run this, you see we get the same result with all the space and everything that is useless. Now that is where our string formatting, our string methods now come in. I now need to use the strip here, the strip here. And we know that the format our email is meant to come in is the lower case, lower case, right? Just like that.
what I put added space terminal.
Yes, intentionally. Because I'm trying to show us where all our string methods now. So if I do the same thing now, if I do the same thing, let me even change add space. I'm getting this, which shows that it has formatted it appropriately. So here we've done a little bit of input and a little bit of output. I hope you understand.
There's a way that you can write something like nine.
Yes, but because of time has gone. We need to go to Django. I've showed us a little bit. Normally, there is still yes.
This it is for adding
You know how that it was. Yes, that's the exact question I want to give you guys. Collect two numbers and add them together. So I'm glad that you're already trying to solve the problem. And meanwhile, we've actually solved the problem a little bit what we've done so far. So try and figure that out in the next 5 minutes.
but I just asked now.
Yes, that's when the fact that that's the exact question I want to give you guys. That okay, do that now.
I'm
Then
looking at the add value one.
try it. Try it for the next 5 minutes. We've actually solved it too. That's the funniest part. We solved it today. And you'll be shocked if you actually see. So it's something. It seems you've gotten the answer. You want to copy you back. It's actually very, very simple. So in our next class, we'll be moving on from here with our Python class. We'll be looking at other things and also continue simultaneously with our Django as well. Okay. I think you just have 2 minutes more. Minutes more. And I'll solve that. Yeah. Okay, 1 minute more. 1 minute more. You've gotten it. Thank you.
Okay, I've gotten it.
Has he gotten it? Is he on it?
I'm on it now.
Oh, good. You've gotten it. Let me solve it here and let's see if we did it the same way or differently. So I'm going to declare two numbers, two variables. I'm going to say num1, then I'm going to collect input for that. So I'm going to wrap it around my integer, just convert it immediately. I'm getting my then I'm saying first, second number.
I also see number.
So now the difference I'll do is I'm actually adding two numbers. Now, what if the number I want to add are not integers? What if the user is entering something that is not integer? So the right thing I'll do is I'll convert to a float instead for flexibility. float can collect integers. So here I'm just going to print one plus that's all. So the thing is, if you're actually converting at this point, please focus. If you're actually converting at this point, the initial value would actually still remain a string. What I'm doing here is I'm already changing the value here. It's collecting the string, converting it to a float. So this here, if I'm going to use num1 anywhere else, it's going to be a float. So I won't have to keep bothering, is this still a string or is it not? So if you are changing it here and you are using the float here, it will change it will the initial data type, which is string, will remain. So when you are calling it elsewhere and you want to perform a calculation with it, you will still get an error. So that is that. So I'm doing this for the purpose of, let me remove this. Okay, enter first number. I can see 3.89. Enter second number. I can see 6. Then here I have 9.89. So with that, I think we are good to go. Is that not so? Okay, so I want to give us an assignment on this. Now the assignment is you're going to collect. Um, have you heard of Mad Libs? Mad Libs is a game. Libs. Libs. Mad Libs. So yes, game. So it's more like a word game. Now you're going to collect. You're going to create a storyline. So just listen. It's
the game. Yeah, basically storyline.
we are going to. It's more like I'm going to collect different inputs. For instance, I'm going to let me give us an example. So I'm going to ask us for different values. I hope you understand that you know English anyway. I'm not good with English when it comes to this now, pronoun, blah 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 blah. Just ask because we need to learn who has.
Are we going to download the game?
We are going to learn.
We don't know the
That's what I'm going to teach you. Now, for instance, you can collect input for color. You can collect inputs for you can collect a noun. A noun is name of anything. Map result. That's how I can collect. You can collect color noun, collect food, rice, food. Just anything. Anything. Then you now have a storyline. You understand? The storyline is I live in a dash. Let me see. Here, this is where our color is going to be a with the let's say noun and eat dash. So give me a color, yellow. Give me a noun, anything that comes.
Australia.
Australia, Australia. Food,
India.
eh? Rice. I live in a yellow house with a Australia and we eat rice. So this is an example of a Mad Libs game. What it's meant to do is to surprise the user with a kind of funny storyline. like you were all out now. There's no way you can leave this. Like exactly, but be specific. Try as much as you can to actually do something like that. So before we move to our Django, this example. So now let's move. Before we go to our Django side of life, any question? That's what I said is our next class. We are not stopping here. We are taking the two simultaneously. Simultaneously. So, what was I saying? Any question concerning everything we do that? Any question? Any question? Ask me now because I can all of a sudden give you exercise. Because practice is how you get to know better. So, are we good to go? Okay, so for our Django project, let's create a new folder. A new folder that we use for the Django project. Just let me know. Now, I'm not adding space in order not to have issues with directory. So I'm not adding space, especially when you want to push to GitHub likes. If you are putting to GitHub with this space, it adds an IP. So that's what I'm just doing. So I'm going to open this now, my Visual Studio. So please open that. Let's go. Another folder. Want to work another folder on for the Django aspect so that not have them clashing. They are doing two different things. So we need internet. Sir? Yeah, I know. I'm like just informing them. WhatsApp. We need internet. Internet. The internet is not the personal internet. Every guy was up. Every day, internet. So yeah, it's not what we want to install is not much actually. No, I'm coming. One. Sorry, so I wanted to do Python. I think 8 MB. What we want to install is around just 8 MB. I'm not even sure it's up to 8 MB. So, like our normal procedure, we are going to create our virtual environment. Hope you remember. Sorry. Creating another so we are going to create our virtual environment in this particular terminal. There's something I didn't do the last time because we didn't make use of the virtual environment, which is another step I'm going to show us. So I think if you press up, yes. So if you press up, it gets us the previous commands. So this is the command that we are running now. So are we creating our virtual environment already? So for Django today, what we'll be looking at is how to just create a Django project. And please write down all the commands because the commands are
The under the Django class, you created another folder.
no. I opened my terminal. Open your terminal. Then run this command. Command here. Python dash m png. Run that command. So that would create a virtual environment for you. Now you need to make sure that you are now running inside of the virtual environment, which is going to show like a VNV here. So at this edge, you should get like a bracket VNV, which we are not getting here. So there are two ways to it. The first one is you can close your terminal, then you open it. So sometimes it would bring the VNV out.
My own has created.
So it would bring the VNV on its own. But if it's not bringing the VNV on its own, another way we can ascertain, because we need to show that we are running inside of the virtual, we need to be sure that we are running inside of the virtual environment. So I'm going to go to my palette, which is Control P. So once you press Control P, it's going to show a palette, this palette. Then you press greater than, then you should see Python. Right? That should select interpreter. Select interpreter. Yes. So this one right here, Python select interpreter. Now, once you click on it, it's going to bring different ones. Now, these are the different interpreters on this system. Now, you now have to go, you now have to look at the one that is recommended. You see one that they put recommended. And if you look at the location, you will see that it is located in your VAV. It starts with dot. That dot means your current project folder. .venv script python exe. Then this is the one you should choose. Now initially, as you can see, mine is here. Is on this C program file python. That is the global one. Now it is wrong for you to use the global virtual environment. So you have to choose the one that is inside the project itself. So that is why we are going to choose this recommended one. Then I'm going to click recommended. So with that, I am sure that I'm now working in my the virtual environment that I want to work in. So if just to be sure, we can run that again. Let that. And as you can see, we are using the recommended one. So it's showing that this is the recommended
How did you
one. Control P,
uh,
then greater than select interpreter. That is why I keep telling that all the commands you need to write them down. The only reason why I'm able to say it like is because it's more like everyday practice. So now the next thing that we want to do now is we're already sure that we are making use of our virtual environment that is inside of our project. So what we now need to do is we need to install Django. Okay? We need to install Django. Are we on the same page? Are we here at this point? We've done everything I asked us to do.
sorry, I want to.
Because I'm trying to carry us along because it's easy for us to just
So how would I confirm that I'm using it correctly?
if it is on recommended, is it on the recommended? Click on the recommended.
I've paid for it
You've
before.
clicked on it before. Then it highlighted it that that's what it is using presently. That's why I explained the directory. The directory is going to be used very soon. Selected interpreter. See the directory of the selected interpreter. Look at the recommended directory. They are the same. Control P. You have to Control P. That's it. Select interpreter. Then you see it's already showing, it's already highlighted it that that's what it is using. Now open your terminal. So once you open your terminal, the next thing I want to do now is to install Django. So for us to install Django, we need to use pip. So we say pip install Django. So this here would install the latest version of Django for us, which is I think version 5 point something. Here just enter, that will start the installation. We see.
Ah, ah, ah.
Okay, so we are just going to let it install. Okay. 8.2.
More than that. Only 19.5.
So it's taking time to just install it. Okay, so mine are successfully
Now,
installed.
now, doing fertile. Ah, ah, ah. Okay.
You didn't open. I said close the terminal, then reopen. So you didn't reopen the terminal. Now when you reopen, Python virtual environment successfully activated. You need to activate it to actually do that. Press up. No, up arrow key. That's it. That should not give you an issue. Now there are different ways to actually manually. Okay. So there are ways that you can actually manually activate your virtual environment without using the palette as well. But I just skipped all of that. So once you install that, if you go to your virtual environment and open it, then you go to library, then you will see all this right here. So as you can see, these are the stuff that you installed. You see a as gref, you see Django. That's to show us that it has actually been installed. Okay, what's wrong? It's not showing.
Sorry, sorry.
Did you close terminal when I say
Because
because
when you said
that's why I said like, that's why I told you guys that you need to always pay attention. If you are not paying attention, you won't make it. Now, this example, this what happened here now is what I was saying. So now you've installed Django like globally on your system, not in this virtual environment.
my niece recommended it.
Yes, but you did close, so you did not activate the virtual environment. That is what the closing and reopening the terminal is meant for.
You have to be fast.
Like before running your install, before installing Django, close your terminal, then reinstall That was what was happening. That was really
You see your own issue. Uh,
no.
done.
So you know when you select the remaining lose that yes, that helps us and one is is are we all seeing that except for our brother in the Lord? Pay attention o, else you make another mistake again. So it's very very important that we all pay attention at this point. Take it step by step. So I'm waiting for you. Then check, open the virtual environment and the library. See if it is there. Is it there? So that has been sorted out. Now I'm going to clear my audio. Now the next thing for us now is to now create our Django project itself. Now, let's just create a very simple project running. That's it. So the next thing that I want to do now is to now create our Django project. So for us to create our Django project, we need to run a certain command. Now this command is in a very specific way that we have to run it. So what now? Yes, I need to explain this to us. When we are creating Django project works in form of web applications like web apps. So let's say this is our project, our main project. Our main project is all about is let me give you an example. Is a school website. Now, in a school website, websites can comprise of a lot of things. We can have a clinic clinic related app. We can have an attendance system, right? We can have what again? A registration system. We can have let us see. Now, when we are creating a Django project, this is the project. Now, each of these are now web applications. So we are now creating them in form of standalone applications that can be reusable. So here I'm going to create an application for I'm going to create an application for attendance. I'm going to create an application for registration, which means this application here will only handle everything that has to do with clinic. This application here will only handle everything that has to do with attendance. This application there will only handle anything that has to do with registration. Whether it's new student registering, returning student registering, as long as it has to do with registration, it can do it. You understand? Now, these are standalone. They will now have like let's call it like their own database, database, database. But these three database, just the same way as these three projects, these three web apps are inside them. These three database will now be embedded in the main database. I'm just trying to give us a picture of how it works. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the project. Then we're now going to create. So in a single project, you can create as many apps as you want. Do you understand? Now with each app focusing on a particular what's it called, a particular area. Do you understand? That is how Django like already have you already have your mobile app, abi? That's what you're trying to say. That's what it's the same thing I'm trying to say. In your mobile app now, your mobile app can have a future where students, this they are getting a mobile app for students, student portal. Students can come in, students have a place where they log in, right? Um, lecturers have a place where they log in. Admin have a place where they log in, right? Now, this login can actually be one single interface for all of them. But depending on the details that they enter, that's what will determine okay, where are you going, where are you going, where are you going, right? Now, if a student come here, the kind of UI that they will see might be different from what lecturers will see. Lecturers don't take attendance, I mean class attendance, right? But they take attendance of when they arrive in school, right? Which shows that this for the lecturer, the UI will be different. For the student, the UI will be different. It's the same way. Now, for attendance, this here handle everything that has to do with attendance for students and lecturer. Do you understand? For clinic, this one will handle everything that has to do with medical records for the students, lecturer, and the admin. Do you understand? Not like we are now putting everything in just one place. You know that okay, there's something the clinic are saying that okay, there's something wrong with the request they are getting, it's not going, they have an issue. You will not come and start going to attendance to like okay, where is the problem in this place? You already know that this is the place that the problem is related, it will come here. So as we move along, we start to see everything. Now, I think we've gone to some websites where we see something like portal.domain.com and we see www.domain.com, right? We can have www.domain and www.psychonet.com. Then we can also have class.psychonet.com, right? In this instance, that would be attendance.cybernet.com. This one will be clinic.cybernet.com. This one will be registration.cybernet.com. Then www.cybernet.com can now be the like home page, the about page. That's what that one does. Do you understand? So that is what the benefits of having to work with frameworks like this. So I'm actually showing us so that when we are working with our project, we know how to create. It's not that we just bundle everything together. Okay, every all of them just come. So there's a way that we actually organize our project. So for us to create our Django project, what name should we call it? What name should we call it? Okay, we are going to run this code. Pay attention, please. Pay attention. Pay attention. Django admin, Django dash admin, start project. Then I'm going to say, what should I call it? My app. I'm going to say my app, then space dot. Please add the full stop. It's very, very important. That's where you need to pay attention. Add the full stop. Then I'm going to run that. Then as we can see here, we see that we have automatically generated this folder and this file. And in this folder, we can see each of these particular files. These are our configuration files. These are our configuration files. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I say we created the project. Now, we now want to create the app inside the project. Have you done that? You've gotten that? I'm waiting for everyone to be ready.
Anything on your app.
It's going to automatically generate it. You will see the same thing. If it runs, you will definitely see the same thing. Okay. Are we good to go? Now, the next thing that we now need to do is to create our app. Now, for us to create the app, we need to run this command python manage.py start app. Then what should we call our app this time? Let me just call it site. S-I-T. Now, this time, no full stop. Just press enter. Then you will see another folder that is going to be created for us. And we are going to see
the name of
the app itself.
that is to create
An app inside the project.
inside my app.
Like, yes, logically inside my app. Do you understand? But like the folder is not going to be inside. The folder is going to be on the same directory like this. As you can see, the folders are together. Now this one here is the configuration folder. This is configuration folder. That's my app. This one here is the app itself. Yes. Are we good to go?
No, that site.
If you make it small later, just make sure you follow your own naming convention.
Okay, that's okay.
Yes.
The name of the app.
The app.
Okay. Okay. How will we name it?
You have to delete it, but you must make sure that the naming convention you are following is what you are following. When we now start working with it, it's not that you now change the capital letter S to small letter s when we want to reference it. I cannot come to your laptop and see what you are doing. Just tell me that it's giving you error. Okay, so are we there?
I want to write this. I'll be like,
You are the one that knows how you write it.
no, like when I wanted to create that app,
Rules.
what am I supposed to write for this?
Create an app inside of it. That's why I explained. You know that if you don't understand this logical explanation, if you say that you are creating an app inside, you would probably be thinking that this site would actually be inside of this folder, right? But that's not how it's going to be. This is the logical representation. But here, this is how it looks. This is the configuration file because we will start doing some configuration now. This is why I'm taking it slow. We'll start doing some configuration. This is configuration file. This is the app file. So we'll start doing some configuration.
Like this everything I'm doing now. Like if you want to like do further project, like
That's because there is a command that creates Flutter project. It is there are some code that's been embedded in it that once it does that, it automatically does it. Start running command lines. Start running command lines on your Flutter, you understand. Okay, so have you all done that? Now the next thing is to make sure that our app, which is our configuration, actually sees this new app that we've created. So we need to make sure that we need to tell it that, hey, we've created a new app. This is the name and this is where it's located. So we go to our settings, then we'll see some. Let me close this. So we'll see some blah 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 that has been created. A lot of things that have been created. Now we'll come to installed apps. Installed apps. Then I'm going to add one more. Then I'm going to call it site, which is the name of the app I just created. Then I'll add a comma, a trailing comma. That's just in case, because sometimes we all do forget. So that's the name of the app. So just add that. Now we can see that we have a whole lot of things. Now because we are not using for web development, so I'm not going to some other stuff. Just basic. Now we go to URLs, URLs, py. We go there, we also see some. Now we come here. Hope you are following me. These are things that we need to do. Then we type part. Then here I'm going to give this an empty space. Then I'm going to say include and site URLs. So in my Django, from Django.urls.import part, I'm going to add comma, then I'm going to add include, which means I'm already including
So what is the
this here, right?
site?
Okay, that's what I want to explain now. That's why I'm saying it takes time. Let's go about it step by step. So let's first finish everything, then I'll now come. I'll now do the theoretical aspect. Now let's go to site. We're now going to open site. Then inside of site, we are going to create a new file. We are going to create a new file here. Site, new file. Then our new file, we are going to call it urls.py.
Wait, sorry, my own my include is not defined.
Yes, that's why I said follow. Follow. Always follow.
Is your
Up
own?
here, up here, I said when you have from django.urls import part, add comma, then
I
include.
did not have my sister. I was looking at my sister
Yes.
before.
That's why I'm always like, please follow, please follow.
I know. No.
So now I said go to site, create new file, then name it urls.py. Urls. We're going to have this empty file. Then we're going to do, just come here, your previous URL is right. Copy all of this, come here, then you can easily remove and remove that. Let's go again. Are we all here? We've done this.
Wow, doing that.
We have all done this, right? Now, the next thing we need to do, go to site. Go to site. New file. Once you create
Okay. Sorry.
new file, once you create your new file, name it urls.py. Okay, which means you are going to have urls.py in my app. You are also going to have urls.py in site. Do you understand? Now, once you have that, copy this code here, copy this code. Are we paying attention? Then go to the new urls.py that you created, paste it, then remove all of this. With yes, yes.
Not really.
Backend sign. Because we've not gotten to import state, that's why we just but we'll get there when we are looking at Python how to
That's
that's why I'm telling you guys that you need to pay attention. You need to focus. Now,
Again, them that creating the new
you have to do all this. Now, if you are creating a new app, all these steps that you are doing inside this app, you will do this here. That is why these things are called framework. You know what a framework is? You guys know what a framework is?
no. I'm sorry.
Let's look at just think of something like this. Your skeletal system. Now, what does that mean? It means that your shoulder will be where the knee. Do you guys understand? Now, a framework is more like it has already been programmed to do this based on some. There's a particular way you have to configure it. Once you configure it that way, that is when it gives you the right result. So, which means you have to follow some steps. Now, all this configuration that we are doing, if we're doing normal Python to actually add code it, we would actually be doing lots and lots and lots of configuration, having to handle things personally ourselves. Now, if you go to settings.py, you see that there are some things that have just been written automatically there. All the code that you open, all those like ESG, my ESG, and you see that there are some codes that have been written down there. Those are basic configuration. All the ones that we are adding now, we are tweaking it to actually fit into what we want to do. Do you understand? There are some configuration that I'm not going to add because we are not dealing with websites. Do you guys understand? If you are dealing with websites, we will need to add those configuration to actually. So if you are downloading some, installing some packages like we install django, people want to do some other packages, would install some packages. Then that is where that installed app where we going to put our site, where we going to in our settings, where we put site. We will have to go there and also implement. Those are some of the things that we need to take note of. Hope we are all on the same page. Now let's go back and I quickly want to explain something to us. Now, in our app here, we did this, we left this empty space, right? Now, let me explain because this part is easy to get really. Now we see that we have this here, admin, right? Now, what we are saying here, this admin.site.url is saying that you know what URL are, your universal resource locator. That's like your address. Now, what you are now saying is we have our domain. Our domain is www.sitedomains.com. This is our domain. Hope you are following. This is that. Now, what I'm now saying here is that for the admin, anytime I add slash admin, don't come to the app that is meant for site. You know, we already created an app site. Now here you cannot see there's no app that is called admin, right? But in the background, there's already an app created for like the admin page. Do you understand? Which you don't need to do that on your own. Hope you are following. Now, yes. You know, for every website, there is someone that handles back end, the database, all those things. It's not even that generally have access to it. It's someone that we always call a super user or an admin, database administrator. You understand? Now, for Django already creates a page by default with a login, like a table for you and everything, where you can see all the tables, your database, without having to open your MySQL, SQL server, without having to open that. So you see it. You can perform all your database functions here. You can search, you can filter, you can do anything you like right there. You understand? Now, that is what this admin is for. Now, what is now saying is once you see /admin, it is that admin app that you should go and look for. Do you understand now? Go and look for that admin app. Now, I'm setting this one to empty. Why? Because I'm telling you that see, once you see this, so once you see www.cybernet.com, just go to site.url. That's where I want you. Do you understand? That's the first step. Please put that in mind. Put that in mind because we are going to the next step. I expect you.
So is it like as if in routing like to the site?
Is this is an app. This site, this site here is an app. That's what we are saying. That we created URL index.py. That's what we are now saying that when it is go to this URL index.py, go and pick the route that we are going to inside there. That's the place that the route we are going to is located. So this admin.site.url is saying that once you see /admin, go to the URLs file in admin.site. Go and look for the route that I'm looking for. That's what we are saying. Hope you understand. This is the hardest part. That's why I'm saying that you need to understand. Just calm down because this part I'm going to give you guys to go and redo it again. Yes, I'm serious. If you don't do this thing 2, 3 times, you would forget. You would disrupt your whole code. You never know what you are doing again. So now we'll now go to our views. I'm going to close this here. I hope you already understand.
Wait, you have to tell it that
Can you go to your URL?
It's empty. It's still empty. That's why I'm saying we are still coming here. And this here, I'll still stand up and explain it again. But you need to understand that one that I explained. Hope you get it very well. See, now you're not shaking it that you not get it.
because you're saying very well.
Like, do you understand that?
Basic
The
idea.
basic idea of what I just explained.
Like yes,
Slash.
you that you're looking for an inside.
Because when we get here, we will still have to go back to that. So if you don't understand what I'm saying there, then you still have to go back again. So but if you understand, it will make it easier. Okay. So now we are going to go to views. Now views is where we do our processing. We do our processing and print out some things. So but before that, let's run our server. So we want to see if our server is running. So we'll go open our terminal again. Open our terminal. So for us to run our server, we say python manage.py run server. Now this is going to open a port on 8,000 for us. Port 8,000. So as you can see here, this is the port. So I'll just control and so it's open the browser and this here
Python manage R.
python manage.py space run server is together. Run server. So once it does that, it's going to see you're going to see this port here, starting development server at http 127.0.0.1:8000. So once you hover over that, just control and click. Then it's going to open this. So once it opens this, just be rest assured that your Django project has been successfully created. So we can move on from there. If it does not open this, then there's a problem. What happened?
No, no, those I'll find that error. Ah, oh, this was the way. Control and P. Okay.
So have you opened it? So we are really sure that our Django project is running. Now, the last thing I want us to do for today is to now display, instead of having this default page display, we now want to display something. We want to display hello world. So we are going to go back to our code.
Is this where it should be running now?
Yes, it's running on 14,000. So you don't need to close this. Just leave it. It's going to reload. So here, I know we've heard of views, we've heard of say views, functions and classes. So our views are could either be in functions or classes. They are the ones that now determine the kind of processes that we want to handle. So each task that we want to handle will now be a function or a class in our view. So for instance now, I want to display home page, the home page. I'm going to create a function. I'm going to say def, let me just say home, then yes, in your views. Then inside the bracket, I'm going to add a request, just like this, followed by a colon. Then I'm going to say return HTTP response. HTTP response. So should actually import this. That should be from django.http HTTP response. So this is why normally I used to recommend PyCharm because PyCharm would help you to get all these imports very quickly. So you will not have to like keep cramming it. So here I'm going to just return a response and say hello. This is just a simple program. So it's meant what I'm trying to do is here is I want to display hello world. Are we good?
Once we put that one.
Yeah. It's not a must, it's a string. Okay, so make sure you save your file. If your file is not on auto save, then go to your URLs, the empty one, the one inside your site. Now here, I'm now going to add path. I'm going to enter an empty string. Then I'm going to say views dot home, just like that. Then here I'm going to say um, from dot import views. Okay, are we good? Yes, this is the URLs. Okay, so now let's go back to the explanation I said I was going to make. Okay, now recall when I said the first admin, I set it to empty, empty as well. The site no URLs. The URLs will be behind in my app. The site no URLs. I set it to an empty down to, and I already explained that. And here I'm also setting this one to an empty string. Now, what I'm trying to do now is I want it that when I now go to www.circle.com, I want it to display this particular view. And what will this particular view display? It will display hello. Run, reload your page. Reload your page. Is this it? See. Can you show your browser? See. Everything has to be saved. Save. So as you can see, we are seeing hello world. Now you see that it's displaying at our this domain here, this 127.0.0.1 is representing our domain, right? Now let's go back to this part, this empty one, the one inside my site. Instead of having this what's it called, this empty string. Now change instead of the empty string, change it to now you see it should be. So now you can see that we didn't import
No one said which kind of error is this?
import it. The import HTTP
Follow.
from django.http import HTTP. Okay, so now what we've done here is now that we are telling me that once we have our domain, go to site for URLs. But now we see that our home page is no longer empty again. But if we now do slash home, it will now display the hello world
on the URL.
yes slash home. Are you getting an idea of the routing now? You're getting an idea of how it is routing now. Now, if we go back to the configuration, the one I know site or URL is. Now, you know it was empty before, right? Now, that empty string, change it to site. Change it to site. It's not
That site dot URL is
site or URLs. Now, wait, just a bit. I want you to see the error that is. No. The other one, the one in my app. In site. Site. Yes. Just a bit. Now go back. Very inclusive. Now, if you look at the error, it's telling that using the URL configuration in my apps.url, what can it find? The pattern it can find are only two, right? It can find admin, it can find admin, and it can find site. Is that not so? Now, if you now go back, you see that it's giving us error now. If you now go back, now change this home. Now make it site slash home. Then we're now going to get the hello world again. Initial URL. Just add slash site is the site is maybe you need the site, you need to add the forward slash configuration. Add the forward slash. Add the forward slash. In the code, add the forward slash. Now if you run it, so you see that it's not showing, right? I'm trying to make us understand the whole routing. Now go back to this URLs, this one that is empty initially. Now remove the O. Remove the O, make it empty again. Now if you reload it, you see it's tell you page not found again. Now, instead of that forward slash, remove that one. Just leave forward slash site. Then you get it again. Right? Now let's go back to our site.ui forward slash site forward slash remove it again.
I'm confused. The one you said first, it remove forward, it remove the
Now go back. It's showing page not found, right? Then go to
okay, the forward slash
yes
removing.
and run it. Now you get that one. Now, are you understanding the whole routing now is beginning to work now? Now, if you go back to your my app, the URL is what you are in my app, then remove that site forward slash. Then you now get the first page. So go back to my app. URL is not yes. So remove this. Like things age is educating.
I've removed it. I think I'll remove the site from
Yes, from the page as well. Now,
the page.
you see how the routing is working. Now, if you now create a new app, you cannot give it an empty string in your URLs.py file, my app, because all of them have to be assigned different location. Shey you get it? So once it is empty, it means that you are making use of this. Then
Yes, sorry.
empty, you are making use of your equals in your URLs.py file in my app. Now for the site, it's now forward slash whatever, forward slash whatever. Do you understand? That is what we are actually trying to do. I'm just trying to show you how the routing, so that you know how routing. It's not, yes, that's very practical. It's not something that you understand. That's why I say you will have to go and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. I mean, understand what I have. Everything we've done from A to Z. Then, but this is the that might. They might have is the configuration for the whole project. Each site, each app now has its own configuration. So I'm showing you the routing now. That thing that we did, that yes. And I'm showing you how the routing works, like so that you understand, so that you understand how the routing works. Why is it that if you go now and add forward slash admin, go and add forward slash admin to the domain name 1.2 slash 8,000 slash admin. Now you see where it's bringing us to. This did we create anything like this? But in our urls.py, in the one here, in my app, the urls.py here, we stated that whenever it has forward slash admin, it should take us to which URL? Admin.site.url. That is where it's taking us to that URL. So no matter what I so this is
So if we can define what type, I mean, can define the site that we want to
yes, once we can define which app we want it to locate. So that is why we are doing all of this. So if you create a new app, you have to do the same thing. But you can no longer name it admin. You can no longer give it an empty string. So you have to give it a particular name too. So that is how everything works. So it's why you have to like now practice over and over and over again. So for this, please we do all of this again because each time in our next class, I'll just give us like 10 minutes and I'll tell us, okay, we do everything that we've done up to that point. Whoever that does not have it up to that point, I want that person to not practice. Okay, so I think that will be the end of class for today. Any question? Any question?
this one is very similar to
Yes. Now you see that it already has a definite dashboard. Now if we've not created a super user because it's another, so when we create a super user, we have our admin and username. We log in there to see what the dashboard. So if there are no questions, that will be all for this class. My yes. That one I was saying. Yes. That time like yes. And I don't know. Just the same way you are changing this direction. It's the same way you're changing that one.
What are you going
So
to?
whatever name that you put down, for instance now, if you make this one site, you are saying that uh, 127.0.0.1.8,000. This is the part. So once it has that, you should cite your URLs. Go to cite your URLs to get the route that you should do. Now, if you set the first route, if you set the route to empty, it means that okay, it's more like okay, don't add anything, then go to this. So it still be the default route. That's when you display the home page. But if you now say home instead, now what you are telling me is this default route forward slash home, then show that particular thing. So this one is telling us which app actually put today route. Then that one is now telling us which extension our file is
Parts in the site. Parts that is the site.
inside. Yes. So if you declare your part A as site, what you are saying is whenever you see the domain name forward slash site, go to site URL. Then in your site URL, it will now there is a list of URLs that are there too. So if you are not now say okay, if it is empty, empty means nothing, nothing is in front. So which means it's still this, then display something. If it is app, then you are saying that once you see app forward slash
Site
app,
slash.
yes, show that. Do you understand? You were not even looking this, and you tell me no.
If I want what name I'm putting under that video one,
You were not even looking at this.
try to do what you were saying now.
Focus first. Then again, it's not something that you get like on the spot. It's something that you yourself have to try. Explaining it alone does not do it, especially when it comes to explaining it alone does not do it. Get to sit down, play around with it. That's when you like start to get an understanding of like, it. So play around with it first. That's my best advice. If you keep explaining this from now to next day, if you are not getting it, then you probably will say just do it yourself. You understand? That's why I told you I said don't practice just once and drop it. Don't practice just twice and drop it. Just keep doing it. At least you can delete the project, delete it, restart again, restart again. At some point you realize that some things will start dawning on you and be like, oh, this is that. Yeah, yes. That's my best advice. Please don't just leave and drop it.
Just created part now. Those
Yes,
and part in clinic. Now let's say there is a homepage with
yes,
registration page.
yes,
Parts in clinic. It is empty. The homepage of clinic.
yes,
Then other pages under
yes. Yes, so thank you so much and see you in the next class.